Okay, so if you're into vintage RC, maybe you're restoring an old Tamiya sand scorcher or a Hornet, perhaps. You've probably hit this weird snag, and the manual shows this like huge whip antenna, right, feet long. But your brand new 2.4 gigahertz radio gear comes with this tiny little wire, maybe 31 millimeters. So today, for this deep dive, we're figuring out why. What's the tech that shrunk the antenna? And more importantly, how do you even install that tiny thing properly in a classic?
It's a really good question, and yeah, it was a huge shift. Those old systems, the AM and FM ones running down at 27 to 75 megahertz, they were just inherently, well, fragile, narrowband. You needed actual quartz crystals to pick your channel.
Oh, yeah, I remember the frequency boards at the track. You had to clip your pin on.
Exactly. You had the board, and if someone else fired up on your channel by mistake, wham, your car got stomped on. Total loss of control. Nightmare.
And even if you had the channel, there was always noise, wasn't there? Electrical noise.
Always. Anything below about 300 megahertz is just swimming in electrical interference. Your own brushed motor, the 540 cans, they put out enough hash to make your receiver glitch like crazy.
Dreaded glitching. Okay, so the solution was move.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A massive leap in frequency. We went way up all the way to 2.4 gigahertz. That's 2.4 billion cycles per second.
Whoa.
That immediately puts you way, way above all that motor noise.
Yeah.
But the real magic was spread spectrum technology. That's what made it reliable.
Spread spectrum. Right, so no more single fixed channel that someone else could interfere with. How does that work? There are two main ways, right?
Correct. Two main methods. First one is frequency hopping spread spectrum, FHSS. Here, the transmitter and receiver do a digital handshake. They bind together.
Yeah.
Then the signal starts hopping between, like, dozens of different frequencies.
Walk around.
Yeah, hundreds of times every second. It follows a unique pattern only your pair knows. So if one frequency has interference, it just hops to another clear one almost instantly. Super robust.
Okay, that makes sense. Like dodging traffic. What's the other method? DSS.
Direct sequence spread spectrum, yeah.
Yeah.
DSSS. This one works a bit differently. It takes your data, each little bit, and spreads it out using a longer code called a chip sequence.
Spreads it out.
Yeah, makes the signal wider. The receiver knows the code, so it can collapse that wide signal back down.
Yeah.
But here's the clever part. Any narrowband interference, like a little glitch, gets spread out too when the receiver does its thing.
So the interference gets diluted, basically.
Exactly. It gets drowned out by the wanted signal. So FHSS is great at avoiding collisions in busy airwaves. DSS is maybe better at just powering through noise. Both give us that solid link we just, well, never had before.
Okay, this brings us to the antenna length. The physics behind why we went from like 40 inches to just over an inch. This is the aha moment for a lot of people.
It really is. And it's pure physics. There's an inverse relationship between frequency and wavelength. All radio waves travel at the speed of light, right?
Right. Constant speed.
So if you crank up the frequency, make the waves oscillate faster. The physical distance each wave covers, its wavelength, has to get shorter.
Makes sense. More waves packed into the same speed.
Precisely. Now for antennas, the most basic efficient length is generally a quarter of the wavelength. 1/4 lambda, you'll see it written.
Okay, so let's do the math. Old school, 72 megahertz.
Right. At 72 megahertz, the wavelength is about 4.17 meters. Divide that by 4.
And you get 1.04 meters, which is, yeah, about 41 inches. That's our classic width.
That's the whip.
Right.
Now, jump to 2.4 gigahertz, that's what, 33 times higher frequency?
Massive jump.
So the wavelength shrinks dramatically. At 2.4 gigahertz, it's only 12.5 centimeters.
Wow. Tiny.
Divide that by 4.
And you get 3.1 centimeters or 31 millimeters.
Yeah, that's it. That little unshielded bit at the very end of the wire, that's the actual antenna. The rest of the wire, the thicker shielded part, is just a coaxial cable, like a little extension lead to get the active part where it needs to be.
Right. So that 31 millimeter tip is everything, which means where you put it is critical. What are the golden rules then, especially with 2.4 gigahertz acting more like light?
Rule number 1, line of sight is really important. Or maybe think about what blocks the signal. Carbon fiber is a big one.
Oh yeah, chassis plates, shock towers.
Definitely. Big metal parts too, gearboxes, steel drive shafts, and even large battery packs, especially LiPos, can absorb or block the signal. You want that tip clear of those.
Okay, keep it away from metal and carbon. What about those receivers with 2 antenna wires? Is that just backup?
That's called antenna diversity. It's not just backup. It's really clever. It helps fight 2 problems. One is cross-polarization, basically. If your transmitter antenna and receiver antenna aren't aligned the same way, the signal gets weaker.
Like trying to catch a ball thrown sideways?
Kind of, yeah. The other issue is the antenna's null zone.
Yeah.
Right off the very tip of that 31 millimeter wire, the signal is weakest. If the transmitter happens to be in that null spot, the signal drops.
Ah, so two antennas help cover those weak spots.
Exactly. And the absolute best practice is to mount those two little 31 millimeter active tips perpendicular to each other at a 90-degree angle.
90 degrees. Why?
Because if one antenna's in a bad orientation or pointing its null zone at the transmitter, the other one is almost guaranteed to be in a good position to pick up the signal strongly. It dramatically improves reliability.
Okay, 90 degrees. Clear line of sight. Avoid metal and carbon. Let's take that Tamiya SRB chassis, again, the Sand Scorcher or Rough Rider. Sealed radio box. Big problem for that little wire.
Huge problem. You absolutely cannot just stuff the antenna wire inside that sealed box, especially near the metal chassis parts or motor. The signal won't get out reliably.
So what's the fix? Drill holes.
You could, but the common solution is to carefully route the coaxial part out of the box, often through an existing opening or maybe a small new hole, and get that 31 millimeter active tip mounted vertically up inside the body shell.
Up high and clear.
Preferably. And this leads to that aesthetic issue you mentioned. Many restorers will then install a non-functional metal whip antenna, a dummy antenna in the original spot on the chassis, just for looks.
Right, so you get the vintage appearance, but the actual working antenna is hidden away, doing its job properly.
It's a compromise. You have the function hidden and the form visible.
So looking back, we've gone from these slightly chaotic, noisy, crystal-based analog systems to incredibly robust, digitally locked, frequency hopping, or direct sequence systems that just work.
Night and day difference in reliability and performance.
But it leaves you, the vintage restorer, with a choice, doesn't it? That tiny 31 millimeter tip needs careful placement for optimal performance. It's sensitive. So, is sticking a non-functional dummy whip on there the best way to honor the model's history, even if the real antenna is hidden? Or should the absolute best signal performance always be the top priority, even if it means sacrificing that classic look? Something to think about.